So, talking about training in multi-domain warfighting center, there's Camp Grayling, right?
Correct.
Here in Michigan. And Camp Grayling is unique in itself because we have capability that maybe nobody else has, and that is the ability to really bring in Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all in a multi-domain that allows everybody really to work together, because we have land, air, we have water, we have beaches, we have all of those requirements in order to really train. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, and I think it's important to first just mention that the character of war is always evolving and changing, and it changes based on technology, it changes based on tactics, it changes based on who your opposition is, who you're fighting against. So that character of war is something you always need to be studying and understanding. I think anyone who's paying attention these days sees unmanned systems being used over in Ukraine on both sides, and the effect that that's been having. There's also a lot of electromagnetic jamming, and that's when you're using signals within the spectrum to jam other capabilities or disrupt the function of other capabilities, or communication devices. So you have a conflict that is greatly affected by emerging technologies. So in order to prepare our men and women to be able to fight and survive in that world, we need to try to replicate the complexity of the environment in which they will be fighting in. So that means we need to be able to fight across all domains simultaneously, which means we have to train across all domains simultaneously. And the 5 domains that are often quoted is the typical land domain, land warfare that's, since the humans first came onto this earth, right? That's the land warfare. You have the maritime warfare domain, and you have the air domain. And those we see in all history from, the last 100 years, those 3 domains. But really what has emerged over the last couple decades are the other 2 domains, which is the space domain, where you're using and leveraging space-based assets to augment your warfighting capability, or the cyber domain, which is more broadly termed electromagnetic domain. Right. So that's the jamming of frequencies, the disruption of other kind of frequencies. So you have those 5 domains. There's very few places in the country where all 5 of those domains are resident within a training space. Michigan is that location where you have large maritime training space in Lake Huron. You can do littoral, which is along the shore, or you can do amphibious training on the beaches. So you can do that maritime domain at full scale. That's possible. You have 17,000 square miles of military use airspace. And that's over from the thumb of Michigan up over Lake Huron and then over toward Camp Grayling. So you have a massive airspace that you can use for military training. And then you have the largest maneuver training space of 148,000 acres at Camp Grayling. And that allows full-scale ground training opportunities. And then we've been able to gain access to 52,000 additional acres offset from that main impact area of Camp Grayling that allows us to do the electromagnetic jamming. So while we're training, we want to jam capabilities, we want to use different emerging technologies that will be present on the battlefield, but we don't want to inadvertently jam a live munition that's being fired on a range complex. So what we've gone through with the local community and with the state is to gain additional access to state lands when we need it for that smaller footprint, lower impact jamming capabilities with satellite systems and that kind of thing. So we have that capability, and then we've been successful in working with industry to fly satellites in our exercises. So we have that space domain present within our training environment. And then, of course, because we can now jam and do electromagnetic training simultaneously, we can operate in all 5 domains for a training exercise. Large training spaces exist throughout the country, but typically they're in the desert. You don't have maritime.
Right.
or they're out in the oceans and you don't have the large land formations. So this is a very unique capability in Michigan that allows us to train at scale in a very relevant environment that the warfighter is experiencing today and will experience in the future. And that gives our men and women a differential advantage to be able to train just like they would fight. So that's unique. And then as we partner with industries to bring in evolving or emerging technologies so that we're always training on the next best system, that allows us to see how to better optimize the use of that technology in our warfighting capability. So you asked a very simple question, and I took it into a very long, complex thing, but it's really the diversity and capacity of our training space that's incredibly unique, and it offers us an opportunity to really ensure that our men and women are prepared for conflict in future wars.
Yeah, it's. I stayed at Camp Grayling a couple of years ago. One of those nice cabins that you guys have there, quite nice. But I was incredibly impressed. I'm a native Texan. I'm always proud to be a Texan. But the last 35 years in Michigan now, I'm pretty proud of everything we have here in Michigan and the all the different capabilities. And that's what I like about this podcast, right? Is just getting everyone else to really understand, who's our military leadership, right? And a little bit about educating everybody, and obviously always trying to bring more, to the state of Michigan. So I do appreciate all of your insight. From a leadership position, what do you, as a leader, what is your role, and what have you learned throughout the years about leadership, and what type of advice would you give to anybody that is leaving school, going into the world? What type of? It's a broad question, so if you can just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, if you haven't learned, I'm pretty good at just talking endlessly on broad questions. So
you got a whole hour to fill up.
Redirect me as you see fit. But I think in my current role, what I emphasize for all of the leadership in our department is we have a professional obligation to ensure that the men and women in uniform are prepared for combat. And we need to shamelessly advocate on their behalf. Because, I'm trying to think of the exact person who said this, but I can't think of his name, but it was the blood of an untrained soldier will forever stain the hands of the leader. So when I look at the capacity for training in Michigan, and I look at what I see going on throughout the world with the character of war and the influence of technologies and the complexities, we cannot cut corners on creating a training experience that's relevant and purposeful and takes advantage of every resource we have so that the men and women in uniform are prepared for that worst situation. So when I look at the military leadership in Michigan, that's my emphasis. And we need to do it unapologetically. And we need to do it in a informed way, a measured way, so we maintain good relations, we maintain environmental stewardship. We have all those responsibilities, and we can't just be reckless. But we have to continue to innovate and challenge ourselves to make sure that they are getting the training they need. So that's the one aspect of my answer to you at the top level right now, today, my passion, my role in this position.